Yeah, by the time I got to high school, I was done. I wanted to play sports. I was kind of trying to brush off
Yeah,
that from my,
right.
I don't know, just it wasn't what I was going for, but I'm still thankful for it. I mean, looking back, um, incredibly thankful for it. I'm thankful that I can sing in the church and that I can read music because of that background, right? So
Right.
it carries over to being able to use it today in different
Yeah,
ways, and then the girls
absolutely.
are still very much using it.
Well, I think it is so interesting, right, in life. And you're not that old yet. You're 26, but already you can see it where we can spend, some years pursuing this thing and then, maybe drop that and go pursue some other thing and then maybe drop that and do some. It's lovely, right, that you get to add up all of these different experiences in your life. It's really neat, actually. And it's lovely that your parents were willing to put in the effort to help you have those opportunities and those experiences, because that's just something most people didn't get to do, right? So when you get to high school, you're like, I'm not going to be opera boy anymore. I'm going to be an athlete. I'm reinventing myself. What sports did you play, and what were you like in those years?
Man, I wish I could tell you I was some virtuous high schooler, but I would say I was not even a good athlete. I played some basketball and baseball, but not a star athlete by any means. Just trying to really figure out what high school was like. I would say um, getting to high school was a challenge because I went to Annunciation Orthodox School for the
Yeah,
first 11 years of my education. So at Annunciation, it's part of the church. So I felt so at home for my whole childhood that leaving Annunciation, it's probably worth mentioning that my papu and Yaya, who we mentioned earlier, they founded the school, and so
right.
I just to show that's how
Well,
at
and your
home I
mom
felt.
grew up there, right? Like you really have this long history at Annunciation, and then you start going, of course, probably like preschool or kindergarten, right? And so
Yeah,
you're just in it there, and you do know everyone. You go to church. I mean, granted, not everybody. I know that Annunciation, I think our audience, I think we've talked to other people from Annunciation. And so we've talked about how Annunciation is an Orthodox school, but it also has a lot of non-Orthodox kids, which is kind of cool because then they get exposed to Orthodoxy and what it is. And they have these classes and conversations. But yeah, that makes perfect sense because it's a fairly small school, right? You're like a big fish in a little pond, and you know everybody and they know you. How old were you when you switched over, and did you go to public school? What'd you do?
so I was 14 and I applied to a few different schools, and I ended up going to a private school called Kincaid, and yeah, that was a really important jump to go to get out of my comfort zone um, and be a 14-year-old in a new place, not feeling special anymore, right? I mean, that's kind of what it came down to. Is I had if you sort of summarize all the things we talked about, right? I was in a place where everyone knew my family and loved my family, and I was told that I had this angelic singing voice, and so to go
Yeah,
to a high school not knowing anyone and them not knowing me was very humbling and very important. Um, so I think that those were very important years for me, and I look at my sisters going through that too, and your heart hurts when you see someone um, struggling in a new environment like that, and trying to figure out how they're going to make friends and get comfortable, but at the same time, they kind of have to go through it, and it's either now or later, and so I think that was also a very vital step in my journey, and same for the girls and everyone else, who goes through that big step to a different place.
sure, absolutely. That is really interesting, and I like how aware you are of that. I think sometimes we go through life, we don't notice these things, but you're really seeing it like, wow, that was a huge shift. And it is humbling, of course. But like you said, it's necessary. When you say that it's humbling, that that's necessary, do you mean it's necessary because you have to go to a different school someday? Or do you mean that being humbled is necessary?
being humbled in some way. I think we can't spend our whole time on this earth being in our comfort zone. It's not all going to go the way we plan and the way we predict. I mean, it's. I think we're at some point we're all going to be um, pushed outside of our comfort zone. It's like we either humble ourselves or we'll be humbled elsewhere. I think that's sort of the lesson is if it didn't happen to me then, if I was at, say Annunciation had a high school, right? Sure, I may have been comfortable for 4 more years, and I may have been happy and just all things were good for 4 more years. But then it would have happened 4 years later, and it may have been harder then.
Well, unless, of course, you went to Hellenic Holy Cross where your grandpa. Just kidding. But yeah, eventually you got to break out, right? Eventually you have to go out into the world and do it. And there's a value to being humbled, perhaps, right? There's a value to that. And there's a value to striking out on your own. And that's interesting. Okay, well, good. Well, this is a good moment to take a quick break. We're going to break, and we're going to let Lucas grab a drink of water, and then I'm coming back with more questions for you, Lucas. So we'll be right back with more of Everyday Orthodox in just a minute.
Everyday Orthodox with Elisa Bieletich will be back in a moment. Give Elisa and her guest a call at 855-237-2346. That's 855-AF Radio. This is an Ancient Faith Radio public service announcement. The Mental Health Task Force of the Assembly of Canonical Orthodox Bishops has recently launched 2 mental health initiatives, a national directory of Orthodox mental health professionals and an Orthodox mental health needs assessment that are available at www.assemblyofbishops.org/mental-health. The Directory of Orthodox Mental Health Professionals features licensed Orthodox Christian clinicians across the U.S. who are available to serve as resources to those seeking mental health care, substance abuse care, and/or professional consultation. While the Orthodox Mental Health Needs Assessment is an anonymous survey for all Orthodox jurisdictions, clergy, and lay people across the U.S. The aggregate data from this survey will help the task force better understand and address the mental health needs of Orthodox faithful through the development of ministry resources. Once again, that web address is www.assemblyofbishops.org/mental-health. This has been a public service announcement of Ancient Faith Radio. We're back with Everyday Orthodox with Elisa Bieletich. Do you have a question for Elisa and today's guest? Call in now at 855-237-2346. That's 855-AF Radio. Here again is Elisa.
And welcome back to Everyday Orthodox. This is Elisa Bieletich, and we're live on Ancient Faith Radio. And remember, that means that you can call in. Matushka Trudy Richter is right here taking your calls, 1-855-AF Radio. And so we are here tonight talking to Lucas Pistolos. And Lucas, I'm so excited to be able to interview you, as I already said. And I want to talk about, so we've been going through, into high school and this. When you were in high school, what did you see your life turning out? Like, who did you want to be? What did you want to do?
I think there's not one person I had in mind. I think high school was the time where I was trying to answer that question, but didn't answer it. I think it's just a time, for me, it was a time of asking every question and trying to decide what's next, and I think I somewhat struggled with the concept of free will during that time, in the sense that everyone was telling me I had to work hard in school, but I didn't really want to work hard in school. I kind of wanted to do my own thing. And somehow in my own error, I thought that to not obey that request to work hard academically was some sort of expression of my free will. It was really just being a bad student, and there was nothing virtuous about it. But I think that those years were trying to figure out what my life was going to hold, and really just not knowing. And it was I think college was a much more enlightening time to when I started to figure out actually what my life was going to look like. but not to say that I had every answer by the time I was done with college.
Well, I mean, some of that's biological, right? Like your brain is just, it's building synapses, it's tearing them down. Like the teenage years are crazy. If you start reading just, like what's happening neurologically to teenage boys, this makes perfect sense. So don't feel bad about it. But it is funny, right? That like when you're in those years, sometimes we can think like, okay, this is the higher level free will question, but really it's just, I want to be disobedient and I'm tired of being told what to do. It's like, well,
Yes.
that may not be the same thing as a high level free will question, but okay. But no, that's funny. So when you went up to SMU, now again, you had said with high school, you were in such a comfortable place, growing up at Annunciation, at AOS, and your grandfather's been there and your mom grew up there, and you're established there. And I would imagine your family's really established there in general. Then you go off to a different high school and you're less known. Now you're going to move off to Dallas. Was that, I know it's not that far from Houston, right? It's 3 or 4 hour drive, but it is a different world and it's different people and no one knows who you are. How was it going up to Dallas?
It was great. I think it was, it was really important for me to be on my own, because what happened at that point is my working hard and my work ethic was no longer connected to my free will. I mean, it was extremely connected in the sense that it was completely up to me, right? And no one was telling me to work hard anymore because I was on my own. And so that's finally when I decided, I actually do want to be a good student. I'm going to a school. That's my main, vocation right now. That's my job, is to be a student. And so I do want to be good at it. I do want to work hard at it. And so kind of flipped the switch for me, because once I was it wasn't until I was on my own and not living in the home that I took it upon myself to be a good student. So that was, I'd say, the first and most important lesson I got at SMU. I think Dallas was a good place for me because it was relatively close to home, where I could go home and visit my family. I also have family in Dallas, so I could see my aunt and uncle at church, Holy Trinity, which was a blessing. And so the proximity was really ideal. And they had a good business school, which is what I was looking to study. And so, it made sense. And it was the 4 years were filled with blessings.
Oh, that's excellent. Well, and it is so true, right? When you're in high school, it feels like people are telling you to be a good student. So being a good student is just conforming to what people want. Whereas when you're out in college, it's like, no, I've decided to be a student. Like, this isn't legally required. There's no truant officer going to come get me. We're paying big money for this, right? Like, I'm paying tuition. I need to show up and pay attention. It really is. It's true. It's a big transition. Did you know that you wanted to study finance before you got there? Or did you, I guess you weren't thinking to study theater like your sisters, but did you always assume you would study finance? Were you interested in other things? What'd you do?
I wasn't sure freshman year. I definitely took some time to figure it out. I think I was leaning business, but I didn't know. And it was mid sophomore year where I decided I thought finance made sense. But part of the reason why I picked finance was because I felt like it gave me a lot of open doors. I didn't want to close any doors off. And I felt like finance allowed me to have a lot of opportunities still there, because I still wasn't sure what I wanted to do, but I heard about people getting a lot of different jobs with that major. And so I picked it sophomore year, and then junior year was all about just learning about all the jobs that are out there, and just trying to decide what made the most sense for me. But yeah, I try to tell anyone who's going to college, I hate that incoming college students feel so much pressure to know what they want to do, and I almost cringe when I hear a freshman get asked the question, what do you want to do when you graduate? Even though it's a very normal question and reasonable question, it's just if you have 4 years to figure it out. I think I saw so many people change their majors, and sometimes change their majors twice. And I saw my roommate change his major 3 times, and he's doing great now. So there's nothing wrong with not knowing what you want to do. especially
Yeah.
freshman year of college. That's one thing that I like to share with people going to college is just because you're going to get the question 100 times, don't feel like you need to know exactly what you're going to do.
Yeah, and the truth is, people are just asking because we're just curious, right? Like, what are you interested in? What are you thinking about? And we're looking for a snapshot, not a promise. Not a I promise. I solemnly swear that I'm gonna. But it's funny because it does impact kids that way these days, and I feel like my generation, being way older than you, we got a lot of follow your heart when we went to college. There's a lot of, follow your passion, follow your dream. And now, everybody's sobered up about the economy and about jobs. And now it's like, find something where you can get a job. And so it is different, and it's a different kind of pressure. And I see, like, even with my own kids, I have a daughter who had always thought she wanted to live in New York forever. And she went to NYU. And after about 6 months, she was like, I want to finish at NYU. I love it here. This has been great, but I don't actually want to permanently move to New York. I see that there are a lot of inconveniences about living in the city that maybe I don't want. And she was like having an existential crisis because people ask, what do you want to do with your life? And she said, I'm going to be in New York. And so she felt like she was going to let everybody down or something like that. It was, that it was some kind of terrible thing that she was doing to change her mind. And it isn't. Of course it isn't. And I don't know. I went to Berkeley. At Berkeley, they actually, we were able to declare majors, and then they zeroed out all our majors. And on the first day of school, they were like, listen, you're all undeclared, whether you like it or not.
Wow.
In 2 years, you can declare a major. First 2 years, just take the classes you want to take and let's see what happens. And I thought, gosh, that's so smart. It's really it's helpful, isn't it? Because we need that freedom to explore. But I love that. Okay, so you went to school. You're already like exploring jobs and looking at internships and doing all of this fairly early on during school, right? So at what point, when was your first internship? Like, what was the first summer where you weren't just relaxing and having a great summer, but you were like working on your career path?
Well, I had an internship each summer. So I wish I'd interned in some business internship each summer. So after freshman year, I worked for a family friend. His company is actually in Beijing. So I worked in Beijing for the summer, and my first Sunday
you
there.
Went to Beijing? Did you go to Beijing?
I did, yeah. I did. I was in Beijing.
Cow. Wow.
My first Sunday, I went to the Russian embassy. I went to church in the Russian embassy. And then the priest who celebrated the liturgy that day went to Russia for the summer, and so there were no more services all summer. So it was such a bummer. It was so cool to go to the Russian embassy that day, and I think that was the only Orthodox church in Beijing, as far as I know, the only one I found. But he would leave for the summers. I guess when Russia was bearable, it wasn't too cold.
That's true. That's probably the best time of year in Russia for sure. But I know it's a temporary experience, right? It's not like permanently moving to Beijing and adjusting to a new culture. So you don't really have to completely adjust. You just have to get by. But how was that for you? What kind of cultural shifting was required, and how did that impact you as a young man?
I would say it was great. I mean, again, getting out of my comfort zone. I worked with people who most of them did not speak English. Just a couple of them did. So, I was mainly interfacing with those people that did speak English, because I learned some some Mandarin that summer, but not enough to really, talk business. So, it was important to get to know that culture and see how different they were. So it was 8 weeks in Beijing. It was great. I'd love to go back again. I don't know if I'd ever want to live there full time, but it was great. To be honest, if I could go back and do it again, I would do Beijing again, but I would have gone to be at Camp Emmanuel first with you, because that was something that was lacking in my summers with those internships. I was so focused on the internships that I never went to camp. I never went to camp until I met you there after I graduated college. So that's as great as those internships were. I wish I could have made time to go to summer camp with our Metropolis.
Well, and that's true, right? Like working at the summer camp, it's interesting because you would think that the kids who are campers at the camp are the ones who are benefiting from it. But as an adult or a college student, being able to go for a couple of weeks and like have this different pace and talk to other Orthodox people, and it's weirdly effective, right? Like, I don't know what we're doing there because it seems like we're not doing anything, but then it really does feed us, right? Like, I've missed it so much with the pandemic. It just, I find that it feeds me and it gives me so much. And so I'm glad you brought that up, because also that's true. A lot of people during their college years are able to be camp counselors. They're able to go maybe to Ionian Village or something like that. And so you were really doing the internships and you were working on developing your career first. And so had to wait until later. Did you decide finally to go to camp because you were there to keep an eye on your sisters and make sure they were okay? Was that the logic? And then you get there and you find out like, oh, this is good for me too. Am I right?
It's funny. It was more like I'd heard that they really enjoyed camp, and so I was like, oh, that'd be nice. That'd be fun to go to. It wasn't a protective instinct that got me there. It was more, this sounds like they enjoyed it, and I gotta give credit to Jordan Azis for telling me, hey, you need to come to camp. He told me every year. He's really the person who got me to go. And then I went and I loved it. But yeah, I was able to finally relax and enjoy it because I had my job set up. It wasn't until I had signed, to join my firm in that break between graduation and my start date that I went to camp for the first time. And then after that, it just became, if at all possible, work permitting, I'm going to try to be at camp. Because it was transformative for me, and the people I met there, the relationships there, and like you said, the soothing aspect of getting to retreat from our daily lives, and especially a job where I'm looking at a computer screen so many hours to get into the wilderness of New Mexico or Colorado was so just fulfilling and so important to me that it was a beautiful experience, and we're so thankful that you're there because it's like you said, it is a lot of college kids who are on staff, which is great, but you also need a mom there. So it's it's great. It's great having you there. It's so thankful that you could be there, and Mrs. Pappas came that year in 2017, and over the years we've had. The motherly presence has been always vital.
Yeah, I have to say I love camp so much, and I'm always just delighted that everyone tolerates me because I'm the old lady with the gray hair, and everybody's just like, oh no, come sit and hang out. I'm like, good, thank you, because I like it, and I would really, really miss it if I couldn't do it. I think it's just such a beautiful thing to be able to do. It's really, really neat. So when you say like with your job, you're sitting there in front of a computer. That's true. But also, you're in finance, right? Like, is it kind of a soulless place? Like, is everybody just concerned about money, or is it really, everybody's really nice family people and they're all, I don't know. But I think I kind of assume, you see movies and stuff and it's just like, oh yeah, anybody involved in money, they're just worried about money and women and cocaine or something. Like, what is it like in your industry?
It's somewhere in between those two. I think it depends on where you're working, who you're working with. I've seen both. I mean, I worked with people who think that The Wolf of Wall Street is the perfect example in our lives, and and I've worked with people who care tremendously about their family and their faith and Christ, and you just gotta hope that you wind up with the people who are going to be a good influence on you. But there's both. There's certainly both. Yeah,
that makes sense. That absolutely makes sense. And so I'm curious. So we're talking about how summer camp kind of gives you this this ability to retreat from the world and to do something sort of spiritual. Is that also the goal of something like a young adult conference, like the Connect conference that you've been working on? Like, is that, what's the purpose of getting a group of young adults together for a conference? And what's it like? What does that even mean?
Sure. It's, I would say there are two main purposes. For me personally, I can't speak to the people who founded these conferences, Connect and YL and OYPC for the Antiochian Church. But for me, it's two things. One of them is to connect personally and learn more about our faith. And, we have some awesome speakers who I know that I'll get that from, by sitting in a room with them and hearing them speak and asking them questions and getting to know them. And then the second purpose for me is to connect with other Orthodox young adults. And yes, I think those are both very, very aligned with camp. Very aligned with camp.
Yeah.
Those are the same objectives. And I think, it's even more so, I become even more appreciative of it as a young adult, because at camp, everyone, it's like parents are kind of sending their kids there, and everyone has varying levels of what they're trying to get out of it. But at the Connect conference, I think everyone has a pretty aligned view of what they want to get out of it, which is what I just described. Right? They want to learn about their faith, and they want to make friends who are also young adults, Orthodox young adults, and even people who are exploring Orthodoxy. And so I think those are the main two objectives.
That's so right. It's a little bit like you were talking about the difference between high school and college, right? Like, it's one thing for your family to say, we want you to come and do this. And also when you're young, maybe you do things just for social reasons or whatever. But, by the time you're a young adult, you can meet people anywhere. But if you want to meet Orthodox people, if you're specifically interested in hearing Orthodox speakers and being able to grow spiritually through listening to this and getting to know some different speakers, and this is the way to go. And so everyone's really intentional about being there. I think that's really neat. I think a lot of people meet their spouses at conferences like this. And I think there's sometimes like just this idea that, well, are you going to meet someone? Like, are you going to meet someone, a nice girl to settle down, to settle down with? Or is it really just like you just want to develop a group of friends, or is it really both?
Right. No, I think it's it's different for everybody, but I think you'll have some of all the above. I think you'll have some people who are going to meet someone. You'll have some people who are going with a group of friends, and they're just concerned about spending time with their friends and learning about their faith. And then I think, we'll have. I'm trying to think if we have married couples coming. I know we have engaged couples coming. And I can't think if we have. And I think we'll have at least one or two married people. Yeah, I think so too.
Probably do. There are probably young married couples who want to come hear the speakers and get together with old friends and make new friends, and it's very cool. Who are the speakers this year?
So Father Evan Armatas is going to be the keynote speaker. So he'll talk. Cool. He'll be the front end and the back end on Friday and Sunday. And then on Saturday, we have our sort of our workshops or our breakout sessions. And we will have Claudia Frederica Matthews Green, Dr. Philip Mamalakis, Father Timothy Hodnicki, and Father James Coles. So that's kind of a combination of Greek, Antiochian, and OCA representation. And we have, that's cool. We picked the number of speakers where everyone who's attending can see basically almost every speaker, which I'm excited about that, because I've been to a couple conferences where there are a lot of speakers I wanted to hear and didn't get the chance to just because there are so many. So we're really, really excited about that list.
Oh, that's neat. Yeah, that's really a great list, and I can see how each of them is just going to be great. And you guys, it seems like you have enough breakout groups that it's not just, what did the speakers think about and decide to come and give you today, but also what are you struggling with? And you can ask questions and you can sit down and have a conversation. And I think that's awesome. How did you get involved in this conference? How did they get you to start helping set it up?
Yeah, so it was Alexandra Atalis, who was in Atlanta, and she pulled me in to come attend the conference in Atlanta a few years ago, and I really loved it. I thought it was an awesome program, and just it was for all the right reasons, and they did a great job. And I attended again in 2019, and they said we really want to expand to a different city. And I thought, that's awesome. I would love to be part of it. But it kind of fell off my radar. It's like, I don't know if I have time for that. But then they decided, They said, no, we want to move to Dallas. So I thought, well, I guess it's coming here. So anyway, so I was very, very grateful to be part of this committee for this year's conference. It was supposed to be last October, and we pushed it back a year, obviously, to this October. And we've been prayerfully moving forward with it, and all year it's been just we do feel like we want to deliver the conference to people. There are certainly people who are not comfortable with where the pandemic is currently, but we felt obligated to deliver the conference because we feel like enough people are thirsting for this type of experience. And I think that the feedback has affirmed that, and there are a lot of people who are interested. And I'm so thankful that you've allowed me to be on the show to talk about it. So hopefully we can get a few more people aware of it, because today, I spoke to a couple of young folks at church who they live in Dallas and they didn't know about it. So it makes me feel like I haven't quite done my job to get the word out. And for the next month, that's what we're going to be doing is just trying to make sure that everyone who could be interested in the conference knows about the conference.
That's excellent. Well, a lot of people have, of course, family members or themselves have very comorbidities or whatever, so it's not a good time for them yet. But for some people, it's like we're going to work, we're going to school, like I'll just put on a mask and come. And so God willing, you'll have a good showing of people who are able to come. And that's wonderful. And I'm happy to help you get the word out. But, it's always hard, isn't it? Here in our little Orthodox world, it's hard to reach everybody. And you would think it would be easy because we're so small. And yet somehow that seems to make it still really hard. So who knows? But so I'm really excited that you guys are doing this. And I think Dallas is a great location because it is so central. Obviously it's in the middle of the United States, but also the Dallas-Fort Worth Airport. And between that and Love Field, like, everyone has direct flights to Dallas. I feel like, from Austin, we have to fly to Dallas if we want to go anywhere. We always connect out of Dallas because that's where all the flights are. So hopefully that means that you're going to have so many people and it's going to be great. Where are you holding it? Do you rent out a big hotel? What do you do?
Yes, we've got a hotel. It's the Omni Dallas at Park West, and it's comically going through a rebranding. They just told us that they're changing to a Renaissance, so I'm hoping that people don't have confusion finding it. But it's really incredible timing that they decided to rebrand the month leading up to the conference.
Yeah, now that you've sent out all your information with the old name, and that's you know what? It's always something like that.
Yeah. I mean, thankfully, they've assured us that there's no construction that will be occurring. So it's just a brand change. But yeah, it's going to be Omni Dallas at Park West, and then Sunday we will, God willing, we'll celebrate the liturgy at Holy Trinity and have lunch as the whole conference together, and then our closing keynote before everyone flies out on that Sunday afternoon.
That's going to be beautiful. And Holy Trinity is such a nice place to host it. That's excellent. All right. So tell me, Lucas, what's next for you? You're working, you have a good career rolling along. Are you happy with what you're doing? Do you want to stick with where you are now?
Yeah, I'd say I'm taking it day by day. I'm very thankful for my job right now. And I want to keep pursuing this career in this field as long as I feel like it's God's will. And, to the extent that I'm able to do other things in my life, like connect and like camp and like just being involved in the church, then I think that it's been a great place. So it's yeah, I'd say I don't. I wish I could tell you where I'll be in 5 years. I don't know, but I hope that I'm still involved in things like this, and I hope that you and I are back at camp in the near future.
I hope so. I need camp. Like, I really hope we're back at camp soon. Absolutely. Well, and I just think that this is lovely. I think it's great that you're working on this. I think that it's great that you're a part of it, and I hope that the conference goes so well. And am I right? Are you going to be on Father Evan's show sometime soon to talk about the conference?
That's the plan. September 12th, I believe, and I'm looking forward to that. And yeah, I'm so appreciative of both of you, and it's a privilege to be on your show. It's such an important part of our faith, and I'm thankful for it. And you said, you're right. It's hard to get the word out among our Orthodox community, but it would be so much harder without you and your show and Ancient Faith and stuff like this. So, it's really just a blessing. Thank God.
Thank God. Absolutely. Yeah, we have a few ways that we can all connect, and thank God Ancient Faith is here. And look what good connections you have from camp, right? Because that's how you know Father Evan,
yes.
And that's how you know me, because we're all at camp together, and God willing, we will be again soon. And so, Lucas, thank you so much for coming on the show, and please send my love to your family and especially your adorable sisters.
Oh, thank you, Lisa. I appreciate it so much, and send your love to your family as well.
Thank you, Lucas. And thank you to our listeners. Come on back next week and we'll meet another Everyday Orthodox Christian. We'll see you then.
Linking the ancient Christian faith with modern technology. You're listening to internet-based Ancient Faith Radio.
It's time now for Stewardship Calling with your host, Bill Marianis. Bill is a stewardship evangelist whose Stewardship Calling ministry is focused on helping people, parishes, and Christian organizations discover and live their stewardship callings and embrace true stewardship and generosity so that they may have a good account before the awesome judgment seat of Christ. Here's Bill.
Where there is no vision, the people will perish, admonishes Proverbs 29:18. And there's been a lot written about that passage. Indeed, in other biblical texts, the word perish is translated as run wild or disappear or cast off restraint. But for our simple purposes, we explain